Allegory Studios came in to meet with Denise and I, and we had a long conversation, but it was really focused around the notion that the Chamber does so many things, and how do we communicate that? How do we tell people what it is we do in a simple, easy way to understand, whether that's members or board of directors or staff, and you had a whole process that we could follow, and that was what intrigued me the most, that people had given us sort of ideas on what to say, but nobody had a process to really figure out what our brand was and how we ought to talk about it. And that's what I looked forward to do. I was signed up in 5 minutes, I think. You know, what I remember most about the process working with Allegory, a couple things. First of all, that they found some real commonality after interviewing lots of different people from different contexts. The Chamber impacts so many different parts of the community. It's really hard, I would imagine, to find what are those key concepts that define you. And yet, when you went around the table, we were able to figure some of that out. And we had really long, interesting debates and discussions, though, about the different archetypes and which ones we really were based on the survey responses. And then we also had to figure out, well, what's the word? What are the words, the proper words to describe? And it was funny because I remember when we hit it, when we figured out visible and vocal, you could literally see everybody around the table going, "Yep, that's it." So the search for that I thought was streamlined quite a bit, but from what could have been total chaos at some point in time. So I can tell you this, that the hero and the explorer in particular caught my attention when you described other types of companies that fit those profiles and how we also could identify with that. So the hero around I think it was the U.S. Army and how they were charging in and getting the job done and as visible as you could possibly be. And the explorer, the one that resonated with me was Starbucks, because they invented a whole new language, and we were trying to invent a whole new chamber. And so those really captured, for me, what we were what led our organization and what would move us forward. But at the same time, that foundation of the every person was really important, because chambers can at times tend to be perceived as favoring the big businesses, when yet the reality is most of our members are small, and we have to serve those folks just as well, equally, as the larger companies. And so just the notion that the descriptions helped me to figure out what I should be saying and how I should be focusing my comments was extremely helpful. And then to be able to understand how that archetype was defined by some other companies, to make sure that I could really relate to that. The challenge I had before I started working with Allegory was trying to speak in talking points about what a chamber does. And the belief statements gave me the language I needed to be able to quickly adapt to whatever audience was there, and to make sure that they understood what it was we did to benefit the community, or to benefit our members, or to benefit where we were heading into the future. So the belief statements, the way I use them is it's all over the place, literally from every conversation I have in a given day, to pulling them out to make sure as I'm writing something that I'm speaking in the right language. Social media posts come from it. Our newsletters all have the headline that's based on a belief statement. Our website, the new website design, is based on the belief statements, a lot of the language that we got from Allegory. So our board communications, I send out a weekly email to our leadership council, which goes to about 200 local leaders in the community. Every bullet point that identifies something we did is associated with one of those belief statements. It's a way of proving to ourselves and to the board that what we say we believe in, we actually act on. And so we've got actionable strategies that come out of those belief statements. And I cannot impress upon people how often I refer to them, how often I use them. We created a little video, actually, that was just made up of the belief statements. And when we built the video, we selected people that we thought could best represent that belief statement, and then we put them someplace in our community that represented the action that the chamber had taken in order to move that action item forward. So we use it all the time, everywhere we go, and frankly, I do not know why other chambers haven't done this, because all of us struggle with the same thing, that we do so much for our community, but how do we tell people our story? And these belief statements allow me to tell the story in a really impactful, powerful, meaningful way that I think has resonated and connected with virtually every audience that I've been in front of. So here's an interesting fact. I can probably state to you all 18 of our belief statements. I cannot tell you what our mission statement is. So many organizations have mission statements that they don't believe in, that don't capture what they do. The belief statements for me really do, and that helps to differentiate. Now, when I know something is working communications-wise, is when I don't have to say it. It's when somebody else says the same words I would that come right out of there. So I cannot tell you how many times we've had volunteers for the chamber in front of a group about to introduce me, or they're talking about the chamber. Steve Von Schenk, the chairman of our board last year, he probably used the phrase visible and vocal in every speech he ever gave at every breakfast and every meeting. And it wasn't because I told him to or gave him talking points. He was our key volunteer and he got it. And it wasn't that he was trained to do it, it was that he actually got the whole idea of being visible and vocal and how important that belief statement was. So I see staff members do that all the time with social media posts. John Marcantonio, our membership manager, when he does Facebook posts after meeting new members, he will talk about, we believe in every member deserves equal support and respect, or we believe for you to be visible, we must be vocal. He does that all the time in all of his posts. So I see staff members and volunteers, leaders in the community, talking about the belief statements and actually using them in comments about the chamber. And that's when you know it's not just me that's saying it, it's somebody that I work with or somebody that volunteers for our organization. When they're saying it without being prompted, that's when you've captured what the essence of a belief statement is supposed to be, I think. The belief statements that we have, that we worked with Allegory Studios to develop, have been incorporated now into our strategic plan. So many of, we have sort of pillars, and there's 6 different focus areas, and all of them are based around one of the 18 belief statements. So again, it's another way of reinforcing what we said we were all about. Now, what also happens with that in terms of incorporating this into the entire organization is that those become actions, and many of the actions that we talk about doing are, again, using the belief statements. Our board agendas all carry one of the belief statements at the top of the agenda and a piece of the strategic plan that goes along with that particular belief statement and what's on the agenda for that month. So if it's an issue about something where we're doing something transformational in the community, we might talk about, we believe this chamber changes things. And below we would pull out the strategic plan that has that section, that pillar, that deals with how we expect to change things. If we're talking about membership and making sure we grow our membership and we treat people fairly, we're going to talk about, we believe every member deserves equal support and respect. And the strategic pillar will be at the bottom of the agenda, and the agenda will talk about maybe some new member benefits. So we have really incorporated it not only into the strategic plan, but into the actions that come out of that. And then the communication piece goes forward into, for instance, our newsletter. We take an item where we may have done something that was based on the strategic plan, that was communicated through an agenda, action taken by the board, then appears in the newsletter under the headline of that belief statement and the actual action and the impact that it had. So it really goes from one end of the spectrum, designing the strategic plan, to communicating the actions that the chamber took. And all along, the one constant in there is whatever that belief statement was that helped motivate us and move us in the right direction. One of the things that we did create with the help of Allegory Studios was an entirely new sort of handbook, guidebook for new members about the programs and services that the Chamber has. And again, it's built on the belief statements and trying to push that brand forward, that the Chamber is visible and vocal, that we're doing things to change this community. We want to involve as many people as possible. We're pulling out all the stops to bring tourists into Saratoga County. All the things that are really important to us and our members are incorporated into that guidebook. They are also, if you were to go to our website and look at the benefits of membership, you're going to see, again, many of the benefits have been placed in there in a way that uses the language from the belief statements. It's one of those things that we feel like we have to repeat over and over and over again as a way of making sure that people truly understand and get the point of what it is we're focused on and how it is we help them. When we went through the process with Allegory, one of the things that Teresa did with us is she played the Olympic music when we were talking about our being a hero. And it struck me two things. Number one, it gave me a sports theme, and so we were able to pull the idea together of being one Saratoga, bringing everybody together, treating every member with equal support and respect. And one Saratoga, connecting communities, puts everyone on the map. So we came up with this number one fuzzy foam finger that we gave to key volunteers to bring around into the community to have their picture taken, and we posted on social media all the photos that our ambassadors took to show all the great places and local businesses they had been to. We pull these out at meetings and functions, and you can't imagine how popular they were. But another small thing besides the finger, we changed from board members used to get a name tag put on. And one of the other things we changed to was we went to lanyards. Now, one of the reasons for the lanyards is it allowed us to write visible and vocal all the way around them, to use different colors that stood out. But the other thing is that to put a lanyard on, you have to put it over somebody's head, just like you would an Olympic medal. So that was such a nice image that we wanted to capture as part of the hero. That those are the two things. So fuzzy foam fingers and lanyards are two things that came out of this process that still to this day get used by the Chamber 3 years later.